Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Keeping It Real podcast. I don't know if you guys been watching some of the latest news on Psycho Stu, an MMA fighter and wrestler. I hear that Psycho Stu may not be doing so well. As you know, some guy by the name of Raja had basically sucker punched this guy, if you want to call it a sucker move on this guy. Apparently, Raja was brought along to this MMA fight and wrestling match, only to end up meeting with Psycho Stu before the match. And you know, some of these wrestlers, they do things to keep the energy up so they could be in character when they go on to the mat. And Psycho Stu smashed a fake beer can on the head of Raja. And from seeing some of the footage outside, at first it looked like Raja wanted to tear the guy's head apart right there. But they would eventually apologize to each other, profusely, supposedly, on Raja's side, making you think bygones would be bygones, right? Well, when the match comes, Psycho Stu had just got done slamming somebody in the ring, and Raja gets in the ring, picks this dude up and slams him to the mat, knocking him cold, and starts laying punches on him. And there are women and children in the audience. They're watching all of this. They're saying, hey, this guy picked up Psycho Stu and starts hitting him for real after slamming him. You know, and a lot of the people that are supposed to protect Psycho Stu didn't even bother to go and try and help him, except for one MMA fighter that just finished a match not long before this one and went in there and pulled off Raja to save this dude's life. I mean, if he hadn't done anything, I'm sure he would have beat him until he was dead. Because if you watch that footage, you know, he's out on the mat and he's struggling to breathe. And next thing you know, Raja is outside saying, I'm tired of people picking on me, man. You know, and somebody bit me, he says. Yeah, they had a video up where one of the guys that pulled him off said, yeah, I was the one that bit you, you know, because you were attacking that guy. And they were asking about the condition of Psycho Stu. And they said, well, he's lost most of his teeth. He's alive. They're trying to get him up, but he cannot walk very well. And who knows how long the effects will be, whether they'll be temporary or permanent. We're talking about possible career-ending injuries. And Psycho Stu is not just a MMA wrestler / fighter. He was also a U.S. veteran in our armed forces. And he was one of those guys that came out of the Army and suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. And he thought wrestling would be a great way to channel his energies and help him deal with his post-traumatic stress disorder. But now he may never wrestle again because of what Raja had done. You know, and when people finally managed to try and get a hold of this dude, you know, by that time it was too late. Poor Psycho Stu is laying lifeless in the ring. People are trying to keep him away from Psycho Stu. And next thing you know, he's out there on camera stewing, "I'm tired of people picking on me, man." Well, like one guy said in one of the streams, said, if you're having problems dealing with people who cut on you or they hype you up to go violent on people, you need to see therapy. You need to get help. You need to get something done, because this guy's actions could end up killing somebody. Because if you watch some of that video where he's walking after the match, you could see his shirt is stained with bits of blood on it. He could have been like Vince McMahon. He could have killed somebody and not even thought twice about it. But unlike the Owen Hart debacle, where the match went on, after what happened to Psycho Stu, they stopped the match and everybody went home. And this poor guy, Psycho Stu, wound up in the hospital with possibly career-ending injuries. And I think it's rather sad. They have the video. It's all over YouTube. I'm watching some of it right now. But to know that a guy doing a scripted performance is surprised by a dude that I don't think he even belongs to the company. He was brought in by some guy wearing a cowboy hat. And the guy with the cowboy hat tried to play the race card and went off on a stupid-ass tangent on a podcast where he flashed what looked to be like a gang tattoo. So, yeah. But I think the wife has a right to sue, because he put possibly career-ending injuries, and he could still die, I think. I think he could still die from any complications that may come up. Because around the time, over 2 days ago, when one of the streams was filmed, they said the guy's alive, but he's apologizing to his wife for landing in the hospital. They're trying to get him up to walk, but he can't walk real well. What's this going to spell for his future? Will he be able to walk or talk coherently, or will he have permanent damage from this? And I think the Army veteran, Psycho Stu, has probably got 20 years on this guy. And, he's a veteran. He's probably seen some stuff that we don't want to talk about. But, he thought wrestling would be a great way to help him deal with his post-traumatic stress disorder. And he wanted to be part of the sports world, in some aspects. It gave him something to focus on. But now he might not be able to do that anymore. Do I think Raja should face jail time? Yes, I do. Do you think his father bears some responsibility? Yes, I do. Especially if he's making fun or doing things to embarrass his son. Yes. And I hear the guy's father is getting death threats. People are calling the father a bad father. Yeah. Especially if you don't teach your kid. When you go to these wrestling matches, if you go into a match, MMA, wrestling, whatever, it's kayfabe. You try not to hurt the person. I just think it's rather sad. I think Raja should face some serious charges. And if the guy were to die from complications, the wife has every right to sue him. They have the video. They have the before the match, during the match and even after the match. And if they get a hold of the one podcast that Mr. Cowboy did, they could probably use that against them in court. Because he knowingly brought a guy with a short fuse with him to this this mixed martial arts match that's going on. So, yeah. And WWE does have some ties to this very company that was sponsoring this event. Now, they may not want to connect with this company anymore because of the bad press that's going on. And I can't say I blame them. They get enough bad press from Vince McMahon alone. He should face attempted murder charges, this guy. And Vince McMahon should go up the river for murder for Owen Hart. For all I know, Psycho Stu could have ended up like Owen Hart. But unlike the Owen Hart situation where the match went on, they ended up stopping the show, and members of a particular team had kids there. One young lady had to come back into the ring, into the arena to see if Psycho Stu was going to be okay. They saw a lot of things that kids shouldn't have to see, all because some guy could not control his temper. And like one of them said on their podcast, if you can't handle the way people treat you in public, you need to go seek therapy. And it took the one guy who got Raj off this guy had to deal with Raj trying to take his legs out. And at one point, Raj punched the other guy in the eye. And during the scuffle, the guy that was getting him off had bit him. And you could watch the video after the match where he's walking up the street. And there's a guy out there painted up in grease paint saying something. And then he says, well, I've been bit by somebody. I'm tired of people picking on me. But you know what? He could have killed somebody, and I don't think he would have cared. But let me know what you guys think about this shit. I think Raja should face some serious jail time for attempted murder and causing emotional distress to the crowd. There were probably 7 to 12-year-old kids in that audience. And one kid said, hey, this went from kayfabe to real. He really hit that guy. But you can go through and you could find it all over YouTube. I'm sure you could find it all over the damn internet. But I just think it's sad. I think that punk should face some serious time. And as to Dad, you need to get your kid's emotions under control or he's going to end up killing somebody. Because, buddy, if it happened once, it could sure as well happen again. No child should have to see that. So, that guy should go to jail. He should face attempted murder charges and undue stress on the audience. Members of the audience should sue this guy. And maybe parents will think twice about taking kids to MMA matches or wrestling matches. Because a lot of these young upstarts forget that you're supposed to make it kayfabe. It's not real. But Mr. Cowboy guy says, kayfabe is dead. Deal with it. But no, it isn't. They do kayfabe for the safety and well-being of their wrestlers. That's a memo Mr. Idiot didn't get. But let me know what you think about this. I hope Psycho Stu is going to be okay, but it's going to be a long road back if he's able to. But like I said, this guy is a military man. And he says wrestling doesn't give him as much anxiety as I thought it would, he says. He came from the battlefield, fighting for our country. He wanted to get into wrestling. It gave him something to focus on. And to have a young man that's probably 20 years younger than him do a sucker job on him, nearly killing him, and I don't think he's out of the woods. I really don't think he's out of the woods. He should be in jail. That's where he needs to be. And I hope Psycho Stu recovers. And I think he should just spend the rest of his time with his wife and find another hobby that doesn't give him as much anxiety. Your health is much more important than some wrestling ring. But let me know what you guys think on this shit. I think Raja should face some serious jail time. And yeah, to his father, you're getting the blowback because your son's a hothead. He's got problems. And if you don't get him to get it under control, he's going to end up killing somebody. There's my take on it, ladies and gents. Let me know what you think. I'm out of here. Bye.